Mississippi Valley State is the latest HBCU school to hire a former NFL player as their head football coach. Terrell Buckley, a former defensive back with the New England Patriots, was introduced today by the Mississippi Valley administration. Buckley, who played 14 seasons in the NFL, won a Super Bowl with the Patriots in 2002. Other former NFL players serving as a head coach at an HBCU: Hall of Fame running back Eddie George at Tennessee State, quarterback Michael Vick at Norfolk State, and wide receiver Deshaun Jackson at Delaware State. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and chief White House correspondent. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, DRNIIQ, and I pop right on up. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580, and there we are for your listening pleasure. Subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast and never miss an episode. Now, happy Thursday to everyone out there. We have an incredible show in store for you. For those of you that have been wondering what is happening related to the DNC race for chair and vice chair and all those really important positions to help sort of reinvigorate the Democratic Party, well, we've got more than just a little bit of an update for you. We're going to be talking to one of the candidates for vice chair of the DNC, Wakenya Clayton, in just a little bit. But first, it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. You decide. USA Today is reporting that rain forecasts bring relief as California fires blaze, but there's a chance of mudslides. That's right. Much needed rain is expected across drought-stricken and wildfire-ravaged areas of Southern California this weekend. At least that's what weather officials are saying. But with it comes the threat of mudslides, and guess what? A new set of problems. A 60 to 80% chance of thunderstorms is anticipated in the area beginning on Saturday, which could bring up to 2 inches of rainfall. And if all goes according to forecasts, it could be the most significant rainfall downtown Los Angeles has seen since Christmas Eve, when only 0.02 of an inch fell. That's right. And so while the rain should provide a much needed break for fire crews, it could also increase the potential for flash flooding and debris flows on torched hillsides. And so be careful out there. For a lot of people to say, okay, thank goodness we got rain. Yes, thank goodness we have rain. But with that rain comes the risk of flash floods and mudslides, and that can get really dangerous really fast. And so everyone be careful out there. Moving along, the Washington Post is reporting that ex-MAGA granny, a grandmother, is turning down Trump's pardon of her January 6th conviction. A woman who once called herself the MAGA granny has spent the past few years criticizing Donald Trump after she was sentenced to 60 days in prison for being part of the mob that stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. Now, Pamela Hemphill from Boise, Idaho, will decline the pardon that Trump offered her and other January 6 convicts during the first hours of his second term. That's what she told the Washington Post. Hemphill, who is 71 years old, is giving up the chance to clear her name, and she said that she will remain on federal probation for 9 more months. She pleaded guilty, according to court documents, to violent entry or disorderly conduct on Capitol grounds. She said that she served 60 days at a federal prison in California in 2022. It is exceedingly rare for someone to reject a pardon. That's what the director of Criminal and Juvenile Justice Clinic at the University of Chicago Law School said. He went on to say that the reasons underlying that what she did are truly of a different time and of a different political atmosphere, and really stands in stark contrast to how other people who got commutations and pardons for January 6th stuff have very much leaned into, I did nothing wrong. Well, look, Ms. Hemphill said, I did something wrong, and she's going to finish the rest of her sentence. She said, if the president of the United States isn't going to hold me accountable for what I did, I'm going to hold myself accountable. You don't make them like that anymore. That's for sure. And speaking of Trump, he has revoked executive order banning discrimination in federal contracting. So we know that a lot of Black and brown folks, a lot of minority folks have benefited from federal contracting with the government. President Trump is looking to make that not just a little bit more difficult, he's looking to get rid of that. President Trump this week revoked an executive order aimed at banning discrimination by federal contractors and subcontractors as a part of his sweeping effort to crack down on federal diversity programs. NBC News is reporting that the White House said in a memo on Wednesday that the order, signed a day earlier, quotes, protects the civil rights of all Americans and expands individual opportunity by terminating radical DEI preferences in federal contracting and directing federal agencies to relentlessly combat private sector discrimination. The revoked order had required affirmative action and prohibits federal contractors from discriminating on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or national origin. It was signed by President Lyndon B. Johnson, a Democrat, and initially covered government employees, but was later narrowed to contractors. And so Trump's order on Tuesday also revoked executive actions by President Clinton and Barack Obama that sought to further promote diversity and inclusion and hiring across the federal government. And so already, not even a full week into his presidency, we're seeing that minority firms are paying the price, literally, when it comes to federal contracts. And in better news, the Oscar nominations are out, and there are a lot of familiar names on the list. This is what you need to know. The nominees for Best Picture are Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked. The Brutalist and Wicked each received 10 nominations. We are glad to see that. Amelia Perez leads nominees with 13 nods. Conclave seemed to be snubbed. They were left out of the Best Director race. But when it comes to Best Actress, Cynthia Erivo received a Best Actress nomination for Wicked, as did Carla Sylvia Gascon for Amelia Perez, Mickey Madison and Anora, Demi Moore for The Substance, and Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here. And so we love to see that. And you know what else we love to see for Best Actor? Coleman Domingo has been nominated for Sing Sing, as well as Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice, Ralph Fiennes for Conclave, Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, and Timothée Chalamet for A Complete Unknown. There's a lot of reason to celebrate diversity, equity, and inclusion, at least in terms of the list of Oscar nominees. This is just coming out, and I'm sure that given the LA wildfires, given the transition of power, given everything that's happening in the world, I think folks are looking for some sort of escape, and award season in some form or fashion may offer us exactly that. When we come forward, I'm looking forward to stretching out with Wakenya, who is running for DNC vice chair. We're going to hear her pitch for why she should be a part of the leadership brass for the next iteration of the Democratic Party. We'll also get her hot take on some of the week's biggest trending headlines. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
Black voices, they matter here, and we've got a lot to talk about. KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and if you are anything like me and geek out over our democracy and all those institutions that are really important in terms of not just protecting our democracy in this sort of, intellectual way, but making our democracy work for the people, connect to everyday people, not just to the elite, but to everyday people. And I've had a chance to see this candidate for DNC vice chair do exactly that, connect with everyday people, not just inside the Beltway in DC, but everyday people in Mississippi, everyday people out west. And, her resume only scratches the surface. Well, Kenya Clanton is a gifted young trailblazer who has been highly sought out for her strategic, political, and campaign advice. She is the founder of Black Women for Kamala, which is a grassroots community of nearly 300,000 Black women volunteers dedicated to supporting Vice President Harris in her bid for the presidency. As founder, Kenya led the charge to help elect VP Harris as the first African-American woman president and strengthen and support communities by educating and empowering emerging activists and advocates. She's been a senior advisor and chairman to the associate director of African American and Women's Outreach for the DNC, executive director of the National Organization of Black Elected Legislative Women, as well as a congressional aide to Congressman Benny G. Thompson of Mississippi. I could go on and on and on about this proud graduate of Tougaloo College, where she studied sociology with an emphasis in pre-law. Wakenya, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nii-Quartelai. I'm so glad to be here. Well, I'm back here. I love coming to your show.
well, we love having you, and we love elevating leaders that are on the front lines. And you have been on the front lines for a long time. We are a week into the second presidency of Donald Trump. Give us a lay of the land as you see it, because as I see it, Democrats are in the wilderness following this election. There doesn't seem to be a clear leader of the party. There doesn't seem to be a clear direction. There doesn't seem to be consensus in terms of where Democrats go next. But that's what I see from my vantage point. What do you see from yours?
Well, Nii-Quartelai, the thing that I think stands out to me about our party is that we don't just have one leader, right? So even as we go through change and we navigate that as a national party, we still have leaders who are showing up strong on the forefront. I look to our mayors who are doing an amazing job across America. The mayor of Chicago just yesterday, I believe, got out and he just spoke out against just this heinous attack that's happening on immigrants in this country, right? We have leaders within our party that are showing up strong, that are standing firm on the fact that they are sanctuary cities and that they believe that people who come to this country seeking safety should have protection. And so I'm really excited about the fact that as we explore and go the test of identifying who our new national leader will be for our party, that our mayors who are on the front lines are stepping up and holding the line for us as we rebuild our party together. So I'm actually excited about the changes that are happening because it's creating an opportunity for new leaders and emerging leaders to really step up to the forefront.
So, I totally get that the DNC doesn't have any one leader, but do you see sort of how that complicates things right now? I think sometimes there are moments where, folks can appreciate the range of opinion and the range of leadership. And then I think there are other times, where folks may be looking for a more authoritative voice
Mm-hmm.
that, is capable of bringing folks together. And while there are some names, that are running for leadership of the DNC that are more familiar than others, it doesn't feel like there's a leader that has sort of the gravitas to really be able to bring together the different camps in the Big Tent party, as I see it right now, and as I follow it right now.
Yeah. Well, listen, that's a fair assessment from your vantage point, but I would say that some of the leaders who are running are new, right? They are emerging people who are coming out of our state. So you might not know them yet, but you will know them soon. We're about 9 days away from giving you that voice, that person who you can point to and say, oh, that's the leader of our party. That's the future of our party. And I think that's where we should be. We should be evaluating our talent up and down the bench. That's what you're seeing. You're seeing folks who come from all over the country, from the Midwest, from the South, from the West, taking national stage. And I think that's what it's about. We have all these members of Congress who have been doing a great job about just talking about what's happening in Washington. But I'm excited about the fact that these leaders are coming from the ground. These are folks who have moved their communities. They do have gravitas. And if you don't know them now, you will know them soon. Give us about 9 days and we'll give you someone to point to.
Okay. All right. 9 days. We're gonna sit tight for 9 days. But let's talk a little bit about the job, because for so many of our leaders, learners, and listeners, they may not quite understand the role of the DNC versus the D-TRIP versus the DSCC. And they certainly don't understand necessarily the job of the DNC chair versus the DNC vice chairs. And so can you school us for a second on, what the job is about?
Yes. So the role of the DNC is to ensure that we are electing Democrats up and down the ballot. That is from the schoolhouse to the White House, from the farmhouse to your house. We want to make sure that our best and our brightest have the opportunity and the resources they need to ascend to political leadership. That's why we have political parties. The DNC, in contrast to our sister committees, focuses on the White House, 1,600. But in order to get us to 1,600, we have to do the work of investing in our democratic infrastructure, like our state parties. We have to make sure that state parties have resources to build up committees all the way from the municipal level of government all the way up to the federal level of government. And so that includes not only monetary investment, but that's also training, leadership development, that's voter registration, that's voter mobilization and engagement. So it is to really support the democratic ecosystem. It is to go out, recruit, train, and deploy new leaders for this fight for the soul of our nation. And so we do that year round, and we do it in all 50 states and 7 territories.
So, following, this last presidential election where, Vice President Harris, Democrats, came up short in terms of the run for the White House. But, considering the focus of the DNC, we certainly saw Democrats prevail, even in battleground states, down ballot. So when we're talking about, so many Senate races in places like Michigan and Arizona, that weren't so sure at one point in time, Democrats were able to pull through. We picked up a governor's race in North Carolina, for example. And so it was not as bad as it initially looked, right? Mm-hmm. There were some bright spots this last election cycle, no?
Yeah, absolutely. 2 of the brightest spots for me were the elections of our new senators, our new female senators, Senator Angela Brooks and Senator Lisa Blunt Rochester, right? Like, those were bright stars in this movement. We've seen in North Carolina, like you mentioned, the new governor. We are still battling a fight in North Carolina for our Supreme Court seat. So we are winning in really critical races. We just, unfortunately, we ran into just a lot of, just disaffected and disgruntled people who just didn't see the need to move from the couch to the polls. And I think we had an obligation in that, and we failed them because we could not connect the kitchen issues, like the kitchen table issues, right? We talked about, all the things and all the great accomplishments we made as Democrats, but people weren't able to feel that where it mattered, and that was their pockets. And so we did ourselves a disservice there. I think this presents us a unique opportunity to try to get it right for the American people, because there will be so much wrong that comes out of this next administration.
So before we get to the next administration, and there's a lot to unpack there, I think part of what people are listening for is, what is the vision for the future? And to me, it seems like Democrats don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right?
Mm-hmm.
That there were bright spots this last election cycle. Yes, Democrats came up short when it came to the run for the White House, but there were other examples of, Democrats' message really sort of resonating with voters, particularly in battleground states. And so, how much of what happened in this last election cycle, was, just a matter of Democrats not showing up, Democrats not coming out to vote. We know how many votes that Vice President Harris was able to garner. We clearly know how many votes that President Trump was able to garner as the victor. But what we're not talking nearly enough about are the number of people that stayed home. That really is a big chunk of people. And so who are these people, Wakenya, and what is the next iteration of the Democratic Party committed to doing in order to bring these people out into the fold, not just every 4 years for presidential elections, but in every election?
Yeah. Well, Nii-Quartelai, the thing that we've been talking about a lot is the fact that we have given up one of the fundamental focuses of our party, which is partisan voter registration. We don't know our voters. I wish I could tell you who those 17 million people were who stayed at home this election cycle, right? But the reality is we have kind of conceded that responsibility to our nonprofit organizations, which I love. I think that we need as many people registered voters as possible, but we need to know who those voters are. And so we have to return back to doing partisan voter registration. Voter registration is expensive, and we need to invest in it, because the reality is we don't know our voters and our voters don't know us, right? Which is the most alarming thing. It's hard to connect and tell the story about all of the things that we've done to help improve the life of people if we don't know the people that we need to be talking to. And so we really got to revert back to that boots on the ground, hand-to-hand combat. Like, you need at least 7 touches, right? A person needs at least 7 touches to fully engage in the civic engagement process. You can't do that if you don't know who these people are. We've got to get back to making sure that we are investing in organizing, that we're investing in partisan voter registration, that we're investing in recruiting and training candidates, qualified candidates, to run and win elections. That is going to be the future of our party. And we've got to do that at every single level of government. There should be no position left on a ballot that doesn't have a Democrat or someone who shares our values on the ballot. We've got to do more on that front. That honestly, that's where we fail, because when we invest at the ground level, right, when we invest in everyday people, then we can see victory at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. We can't do that if we don't know who we have at the municipal level that's running, if people don't know who's sitting on these courts or running for these judicial positions. We've got to do more to invest in boots on the ground. We've got to empower our state parties with the resources that they need. I love the fact that we have these partnership programs at the DNC that help fuel and support programs for state parties, but it's not enough. We need something that's going all the time into all 50 states and 7 territories. Nothing should be left on the field when it comes to this game called politics.
So what Kenya, for our leaders, learners, and listeners who are a little less familiar than certainly you are, when it comes to the inner workings of the Democratic Party, what does the DNC do between election cycles? We know that there have been reports that there were mass layoffs of the DNC. We're told that there's nothing unusual about that. The party typically expands around presidential elections and contracts in between cycles. But what exactly is the DNC doing? Are they in the lab sort of, innovating in any sort of way in between election cycles, or are they just sort of sitting dormant, which I think is the idea that a lot of us hold?
Well, when I worked at the DNC in 2017, all the way up until 2021, we had a motto, and that motto was Organize 365. We didn't take any off year. We weren't down in the midterm elections. We were up and running and investing in organizing and training, which is what we have to return to. I think when we think about the opportunities that exist across this nation, it's going to require us really investing in that infrastructure, really recruiting folks, young people to get involved in this process, create more pathways to political engagement for young people. And we do that by investing in organizing, working with our state parties to really craft an agenda that speaks to the future of our party. And that involves young people. We have to create space for them at the table. We have to make sure that when we're thinking about the future of our party and where we're headed as a nation, that we double down on our investments in misinformation and disinformation to ensure that people are getting accurate information, that they get honest information about how things work and how things run and what we're doing as leaders across this nation. I think that's really important for us. We also got to realize that as a party that this idea of being a big tent doesn't work, because I don't care how big your tent gets, you're going to leave someone out. We really should adopt this idea of us being a tapestry, realizing that we all bring something unique to the table that helps us grow and actually support this fabric of American democracy. What we're seeing right now happen in our country is an effect of the fact that we have forgotten about the base, right? We've forgotten about our base. We've been so focused on chasing people who don't want to like us, trying to force them to like us, instead of doubling down on our investment with people who believe like we believe, who work like we work, right? Who understand the challenges of the day and rise every day to meet them. We need to do more to invest in everyday people. And so part of the reason that I'm running for DNC vice chair is because I understand uniquely what it means to work within this ecosystem from the position of someone who served not only as a coalitions director for two of the largest coalitions within the DNC, the African American Caucus, as well as the Women's Caucus, but I also served as senior advisor to the chair. Part of my job was going out and to create more space for more voices in our party. And I did that. I traveled across this country, going to more than 40 different cities, talking to people, whether they were Black, white, brown, it didn't matter. I wanted to ensure that the voice of everyday people were central in the focus that we have as a party. And so that was talking to working folks, that was listening to farmers, that was creating those spaces for the caregivers and the educators. We had to create more space for more people and to bring their thoughts and their ideas into what the fabric of this nation should really look like.
When we come forward, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into those ideas. We're going to get Wakenya's hot take on how Dems should engage with President Trump and the Republican Party. Some might call the Trump Party, given President Trump's grip on Republicans on Capitol Hill and beyond. Plus, I think one of the most essential questions to anybody who's running for leadership in the DNC, why did the Democrats lose in 2024? It's an important question. We're going to get Wakenya's answer to that and more. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're looking to be engaged, enlightened, and empowered about issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice, you've tuned into the right place. A More Perfect Union continues when we come forward.
The wind is blowing cold. Have we lost our way tonight? Have we lost our hope to sorrow?
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. African-American House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is rejecting tying California wildfire aid to a debt ceiling hike, calling it a non-starter. He says no GOP leaders have discussed a potential deal with him. A Nashville, Tennessee high school shooting left 2 students dead and 2 injured. A black male 17-year-old shot a 16-year-old girl in the cafeteria, injured a boy, and then killed himself. The injured boy has been released from the hospital. Black Thornton, Illinois Township Supervisor Tiffany Henyard is opposing the appointment of the new interim trustee, claiming the process violated township code. Other trustees insist all legal steps were followed. And Vanessa Bryan is announcing the release of Mamba and Mambacita Forever, a mural book honoring Kobe and Gianna Bryant. Out August 19th during Mamba Week, it features art celebrating their legacy ahead of the 5-year anniversary of their tragic passing. I'm Amber Payton on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
Your local Staples has hot deals and super low prices throughout the store on everything for your business. And right now at Staples, save up to $175 off your print order. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends 2/1. Plus, save even more with the Easy Rewards program at Staples.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers might have done the Lakers a favor last night by pushing the Boston Celtics to overtime at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. The Celtics have to play the Lakers tonight after their tough 4-point win over the Clippers. It'll be interesting to see how much energy the defending NBA champs have for their longtime rivals. 7 p.m. tip-off on TNT. Mississippi Valley State is the latest HBCU school to hire a former NFL player as their head football coach. Terrell Buckley, a former defensive back with the New England Patriots, was introduced today by the Mississippi Valley administration. Buckley, who played 14 seasons in the NFL, won a Super Bowl with the Patriots in 2002. Other former NFL players serving as a head coach at an HBCU: Hall of Fame running back Eddie George at Tennessee State, quarterback Michael Vick at Norfolk State, and wide receiver Deshaun Jackson at Delaware State. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you in tough times, connecting you with resources and what you need to know. Evacuation shelters are located in the Pasadena Civic Center, the Dream Center in LA, the Westwood Recreation Center, and many more. You can call 311 for details. Santa Anita Park in Arcadia is a pop-up mutual aid hub where you can pick up anything from clothing to food and hygiene supplies. If you're in Los Angeles County and in need of food, call Omni Ministries at 310-631-1557. Donations can be made to Zelle, Omni Ministries, Inc. at yahoo.com. Parking Lot I outside of Rose Bowl Stadium is a pop-up mutual aid hub where you can pick up everything from clothing to food to hygiene supplies for free. To volunteer or donate to help victims of the fire, contact the LA Emergency Network at enla.org. The Cochran Firm and Ivy McNeil, Wyatt Purcell and Diggs, Jazz Mechanic, and others have launched a GoFundMe specifically targeting Altadena. Visit LA Fires, the impacted Black community urgently needs help on GoFundMe, and donate to help Black evacuees fighting for survival. Airbnb is offering free temporary housing to people displaced by the fires. Call 211 to sign up. The LA Chamber of Commerce is stepping up to help you sort out insurance claims and other paperwork. Reach them at 213-580-7500. South LA Cafe has free groceries, clothing, and water available at 1700 Browning Boulevard in LA. Track their giveaways or volunteer through their Instagram at South LA Cafe. U-Haul is donating short-term storage free of charge for 30 days to evacuees. Shelter for small or large animals can be accessed by calling 211. A Black-led coalition of community organizations is offering support and resources in the Altadena area at the Flint Ridge Center at 236 West Mountain Street in Pasadena. For comprehensive lists of resources for housing, food, shelter, and more, visit Mutual Aid LA Network on Instagram. Praying for LA and standing with you. KBLA Talk 1580.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. If you own a timeshare, don't miss this public service announcement from Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group.
If you receive an unsolicited phone call or mail piece to discuss selling, renting, or especially canceling your timeshare, don't fall for it. If you really want out of your timeshare, hang the phone up immediately or throw that mail piece in the trash and contact your timeshare resort or Wesley Financial Group for assistance with your timeshare. As the only Inc. 500 timeshare cancellation company, our knowledge, experience, and results has made Wesley a trusted resource for over 40,000 families we've helped get out of their timeshare. Give us a call and I'll send you our timeshare exit information kit free with the straight facts about your timeshare and all of your options for cancellation.
Call for your free info kit, 800-511-2112. That's 800-511-2112. 800-511-2112.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
The new year brings new health goals and wealth goals. Protecting your identity is an important step. Your info is in endless places that could expose you to identity theft, leading to lost funds. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Resolve to make identity health and wealth part of your New Year's goals with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
You say you never give in to a meltdown and never fill your feed with kid photos. You say you'd never put a pacifier in your mouth to clean it and never let them run wild through the grocery store. So when you say you'd never let them get into a car without you there, know it can happen. 1 in 4 hot car deaths happen when a kid gets into an unlocked car and can't get out. Never happens. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to us in afternoon drive time, and really delighted to be talking with Wakinya Clanton. She is a candidate for DNC vice chair. A lot of people out there thinking that the Democratic Party is in the wilderness right now as they search for the next leader of the DNC and, quite frankly, the leadership brass of the DNC. And Wakinya has raised her hand, and she is praying with her hands and her feet to become the next DNC vice chair. We're really happy to have you.
Thanks so much, Nii-Quartelai.
And so I think one of the critical questions that anybody who's running for a leadership role in the DNC has to answer is why Democrats lost. Why did Democrats come up short? Yes, there were bright spots in the 2024 election cycle in terms of Senate races, the governor's race in North Carolina, and some other down ballot races. But, given the investment in the Harris-Walz campaign, over $1 billion in investment at a minimum, a lot of people just dumbfounded that Democrats, top of the ballot, didn't win not one battleground state, considering how much work went into those states. And so tell us, from your vantage point, why did Democrats lose at the top of the ticket in 2024?
Well, Nii-Quartelai, I think we lost because we lost in the margins. And we lost in the margins because we forgot about marginalized people. We forgot about people in rural America. We forgot about working class people. We forgot about young people. When you look at the numbers, like particularly in states like Wisconsin and Michigan, Trump had a very narrow lead in those places. He won Wisconsin by less than 1%, right? He won Michigan by roughly about 80,000 votes. And so if we had had more time, and I really do have to give credit to Vice President Harris because she stepped in at a critical moment in our country, right? Generally, we would have a period where we could have a long primary process, and you could get to know the various candidates, and you can see our bench come to the light, but we didn't have that opportunity. We were behind our commander-in-chief, President Joseph Biden, and we still stand behind him. He did an incredible job for our country. He gave us the hope that we needed at a critical time and the leadership that we needed at a critical time. And he's backed his number 2, because when he chose her, he knew that she would be ready on day 1. And that was the job of the vice president. I think given the fact that she only had roughly 107 days to stand up a full presidential campaign and talk to millions of voters across this country, we just didn't have enough time to organize the people we were talking to. I think we did a great job about getting her message out and, creating space and excitement and energy and joy back into this campaign. But that did not translate to people who were still feeling the brunt of an economy that was shifting in real time for them. They didn't understand why they were going to work every day, but grocery prices were steadily increasing, gas prices were steadily increasing. And so they couldn't even see anything coming from their paychecks after they paid their bills. And so that was a hard part for us. We missed on the economy. And that's what the other campaign, they were able to tell a story around that resonated with the American people. And for those who may have heard those stories, but still weren't compelled enough to go out to vote, it is that they decided that they didn't have an opportunity to really connect with anything that was coming from either side. And so you saw this growing couch coalition of people because they couldn't find themselves in either party. And I think that says something about the fact that we have to do more to actually lead and live our values so that people can see us even in the hard times, that they know that we're here and we're fighting for them and we're fighting with them.
Do you think President Biden stayed too long? He had pledged to be a transition president. There are a lot of people that looked up and saw him announce he was running for a second term and were scratching their heads because they didn't think they were signing up for a 2-term deal. How badly do you think that hurt Democrats? Not just folks running for Congress, but Democrats up and down the ticket. Should President Biden have exited the race or had decided not to run for re-election sooner?
Well, one of the things that I love about President Biden is that he's always been a fighter. I love the fact that they call him Scrappy Joe, and because that says to me that that's the type of energy that we needed as a country, someone who was willing to go to bat and fight for us. And I'm just so immensely proud that the fact that he decided to fight to the last minute. I think it did have an effect on people differently. People saw that differently. I think it would have served us better if we had an opportunity to make a choice. And that's what people really felt strongly about, is the fact that they felt like the decision was being made for them. And, I would have loved the opportunity for Vice President Harris to have more of an opportunity to introduce herself to the rest of the country, right? And not in abbreviated form. I would have loved to see who would have come up from the trenches to really rise as our Democratic stars, right? Or stars, not just star, but stars. And so I do think it did us a disservice, but I'm just so immensely proud of President Biden and the job that he's done, that he did as president. And I love the fact that he was willing to fight for us until the bitter end.
So while Kenya, just to put a finer point on it, it sounds to me that you would have supported an open primary to allow the members of the DNC and just members of the party in general to be able to sort of weigh in and cast their support affirmatively, for the DNC nominee, with, of course, high hopes that nominee would be Vice President Kamala Harris. But you would have endorsed a process like that if there was time to do it.
Well, Nii-Quartelai, I'm a true believer of democracy. I believe in the democratic process and the voice of the people reigning. And so, yes, I would have supported that because I believe that people deserve an opportunity to choose. They should know who their candidates are. They should know who's next up, who's on the bench, right? Who they want to follow, who they are inspired by. They should know that, and they should have an opportunity to make that choice. And so, I'm going to always support a process that is open and transparent and free, that allows the voices of all of us to be heard. I believe in the fact that we are a tapestry, and sometimes the best way to weave that is to see all of the threads be presented before you.
So, Joaquin, in our remaining minutes, I want to give you an opportunity to share your perspective on how Dems should engage President Trump and the Republican Party moving forward. Because listen, there are some people who say resist, resist, resist. There are other people that say, well, maybe we play ball on, on immigration. We play ball on tax cuts. We play ball on certain issues. Where do you fall in terms of how Dems should engage with President Trump?
Well, accountability matters. I think that we have a moral obligation to the American people. And so our engagement should be one that holds this administration accountable for the decisions that it will make. I think when you think holistically about the political system, there have already been some spaces where Democrats and Republicans are working towards consensus. So whether that is on the bipartisan infrastructure bill or on a bipartisan immigration bill, I think there are spaces for us to work together on that. But it has to be rooted in our values. We can't compromise our values for short-term political gain. And I think we have our greatest obligation is to that of the American people to ensure that they have a government that works in their best interest.
And so I heard you mention, or really reference the bipartisan work that Democrats and Republicans have done on issues like infrastructure and immigration, at least in the past. My question is, just sort of moving forward, is there any particular area where, during the first Trump term, Democrats were like, we ain't working with you, where now in the second term, Democrats, should be giving that a second thought?
Well, I think it's going to matter what the plan is. As we learned during the campaign, he only had concepts of plans, not plans themselves. And so it's going to be really important for us to know the details of those things that he's proposing. I think we've already seen where his character lies with these recent executive orders that are completely in contrast to our values as a party. And so I don't see space and opportunity to work with him on those things there. I just think that when you talk about stifling away the economic opportunities for folks in this country, whether they are Black or brown, whether they are a male or female, I think we have some issues around that when it comes to DEI. I'm thinking about how some of these executive orders are affecting not only people who are Black and brown and women, but also people who are disabled and who are veteran. There are so many programs that really focus on marginalized people. Just what we're seeing happen here as it relates to just the negative impacts on these communities. You're thinking about the lack of representation that we have from Native folks that are even in the federal government. Like, all of those opportunities are being stripped away at the hands of a tyrant, and we have to do something about that.
Our thanks to Joaquin Clanton, who is running for DNC vice chair, someone who believes that the Democratic Party is more a tapestry than a big tent these days. Someone who has contributed to the party under the motto, Organize 365. She is on a mission to engage the growing couch coalition in the country. And we wish her well in her race. Thank you so much for joining us, Joaquin.
Thank you so much.
When we come forward, it's time for the quiet part out loud. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I feel so alone.
I'm embarrassed to talk about it.
How can I help my kid if I can't help myself?
I can't remember when I wasn't stressed.
I don't like stress inside.
When you feel overwhelmed by your thoughts and emotions, it's okay to get help. You are not alone. CalHope is here for you with free, safe, and confidential mental health resources for youth, young adults, families, and you. Find support now at calhope.org.
Can your pad absorb everything and stay fresh? Always Radiant with Flex Foam can. Get up to 0 leaks, 0 odor, and 0 feel. Because Flex Foam is the only pad with a flexible foam core. You heard me, foam. Always Radiant is so thin, it feels like nothing, yet protects like nothing else. Can your pad do that? For up to 100% leak-free protection, try Always Radiant to see what Flex Foam can do for you.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join the Inner City Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles as it presents a Los Angeles Wildfire Benefit Concert on Sunday, February 2nd, 4 p.m. at the First United Methodist Church, 500 East Colorado Boulevard in Pasadena. Join us for a powerful evening of music, unity, and support as talented performers from our community come together to raise funds for those affected by the wildfires. The concert is free, and all proceeds raised will benefit those who have sustained unimaginable losses. It's the Inner City Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles in concert, Sunday, February 2nd, 4 p.m. at the First United Methodist Church in Pasadena, located at 500 East Colorado Boulevard. All contributions should be made payable to the California Community Foundation Wildfire Community Fund. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580 in afternoon drive time. It's time for the quiet part out loud. NBC News reporting that federal employees are told to name colleagues who work in diversity, equity, and inclusion roles or risk adverse consequences. You can't make this stuff up. Federal employees received emails on Wednesday warning that they could face repercussions if they do not report on coworkers who work in diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility positions that might have gone unnoticed by government supervisors. This is where we're at. Employees were directed to notify the Office of Personnel Management if they are, quote, aware of a change in any contract description or personnel position description since November 5th, 2024, to obscure the connection between the contract and DEIA or similar ideologies. This directive went on to say that there will be no adverse consequences for timely reporting this information. That's what the email said. However, failure to report this information within 10 days may result in adverse consequences. You see, workers across multiple agencies and departments have received emails with the same language as of Wednesday night. White House spokespeople did not immediately respond to questions about the nature of adverse consequences or how the directive could be enforced. The Office of Personnel Management issued a memo on Tuesday directing the heads of departments and agencies to send the notice to employees by 5 p.m. on Wednesday. The office provided a template email that multiple heads use. It is unclear if any department or agency had altered or omitted the DEI reporting language to their employees. Now, the Trump administration had also called for agency heads to place federal employees in DEI roles on paid leave by the end of the workday on Wednesday. Put these folks out on paid leave. Trump signed an executive order on his first day in office to shutter DEI and accessibility mandates and policies and programs and preferences and activities in the federal government under whatever name they appear. The move is the latest in a series of anti-diversity efforts that Trump has already made. And on Monday, he also signed this executive order saying that U.S. policy would recognize two sexes, male and female. And so we're not even at the end of the first week of the Trump presidency. And already you are seeing in real time the impact that he is having on federal workers, right? There are a number of people who bring a DEI consciousness to their work. Before we ever called it DEI, we called it social justice. There are people who brought a social justice and economic justice mindset to that work, worldview to that work. And this is an attempt to root that out. You know, it wasn't that long ago, historically speaking, that our nation did something that we didn't think we could do, passing the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act, all of which brought a social justice consciousness, a racial justice consciousness, a gender justice consciousness to the work of the federal government. And all of that work is on the line. It's on the chopping block. On the chopping block. Think about all the people who have business with the federal government, contractors, whose work is now in question. Think about that. These are folks who are just trying to do right by their communities. They're just trying to do their part to build a more perfect union, and they are under attack. Don't look away. Don't turn off the TV or the radio. There's no better time to re-up and think about what you can do from where you are with what you have. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and you've been listening to A More Perfect Union in Afternoon Drive Time right here on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. African-American House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is rejecting tying California wildfire aid to a debt ceiling hike, calling it a non-starter. He says no GOP leaders have discussed a potential deal with him. A Nashville, Tennessee high school shooting left 2 students dead and 2 injured. A black male 17-year-old shot a 16-year-old girl in the cafeteria, injured a boy, and then killed himself. The injured boy has been released from